Hi people, how you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It's Sandra here and I'm back again with another video which says music and dancing is haram. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, but we are going to be getting into this today. And without no further ado, people, let's just hop right into the video.
And these are what some Muslims do in response to that. That's not a lie, that's just a statement of fact.
The most important social freedoms and advances have been brought about by people who cause... The most important social freedoms and advances have been brought about by people who caused great offence in their time. Galileo, Charles Darwin, they caused offence to the church because they spoke out against the church orthodoxy. The first people who spoke out against slavery caused great offence. Those who denounced the church and the way the church supported slavery, they were denounced and condemned for causing offence.
Is there anything I could say that would offend you?
Well, there may be plenty of things you can say, but you have the right to say them, providing you don't incite violence against other human beings.
But how do we not legislate is the wrong word, but how do we make sure that people don't cross that line? Because I say it's a very grey area, isn't it? Miriam, you wanted to come back in.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, there are certainly things that are offensive, but do we need to offend people by saying them? I mean, there's a way of saying things. We can discuss the institution of the monarchy in this country without insulting the Queen. It therefore makes it perfectly reasonable and possible to discuss, I think, the tenets and beliefs of any other religion without insulting sensibilities.
Insulting sensibilities, that's interesting. Without insulting sensibilities. Okay, some Muslims think that music and dancing are haram and should be forgiven, not forgiven, wrong word, Freudian slip, forbidden, haram, that it's forbidden. So if I were to say, music, forbidden, haram, that is just bonkers. Now some people are going to find that extremely offensive, aren't they? Have I offended sensibilities? Do I have the right to say that?
I think if people that are used to having debates within the interfaith debates are pretty familiar with the codes and practices of different religions and understand where those boundaries lie. And certainly that would not be one of those boundaries. But there are certain things that even people with no religion would find offensive. If I was to come on TV and start insulting, you know, I mean, I hate to be crass, but your mother, that would be extremely offensive. Now, we feel as strongly about our mothers as we do about the Prophet Muhammad. That doesn't mean you can't discuss what he says, the message he brings.
People in this country put up with being offended. Walking down the street, you get offended. There's somebody wearing something you don't like, or you get offended. It's part of being grown up. It's just accepting the fact that you get your feelings trodden upon. Does it mean you have to deliberately tread on people's feelings? No, not necessarily.
Exactly.
But what you cannot do is to ring-fence one ideology through fear, intimidation, or anything else. And that is what we see happening. That's what Ben El's going to say.
Richard Dawkins, Professor, you've obviously, I mean, a lot of people have taken offence at some of the things that you've written. You know, they feel personally offended because they feel that their faith, which is so dear to them, and their belief, which they cherish, has, you know, you're criticising it. Do you think about that?
I don't go out of my way to offend.
No, but do you think about the possible consequences?
If people are offended, then they may argue against me. All I use is words. There's a radical distinction between using words and violence, and incitement to violence. The Salman Rushdie affair absolutely brings this out. Salman Rushdie simply wrote a book. That's what he did. He wrote a book. He was threatened with death. He was threatened with death by baying crowds in this country. People burned his books. They demanded the death penalty.
And some leading parliamentarians suggested that the paperback shouldn't come out.
Some leading parliamentarians, some leading clergymen, some leading bishops sided with the Ayatollah Khomeini rather than sided with this very distinguished novelist who did no more than put words on paper. That is a radical distinction.
Can I let Miriam come back in?
I do sort of feel like we're talking about issues in a vacuum here. I mean, you're talking about the fatwa against Salman Rushdie. Are we forgetting that we're talking about Khomeini? Are we forgetting that we're talking about the 1979 revolution and the context in which that was occurring? And similarly, when we talk about, you know, the reaction, the highly unacceptable, violent reaction of some Muslims, I would like to add, to films like Geert Wilders' films and Van Gogh's film, etc. You know, we're almost talking like it's completely decontextualised. It's not happening in a vacuum. Muslims around the world feel victimised.
You're completely wrong. One of the people who supported the fatwa against Salman Rushdie was now Sir Iqbal Sakrani, a leader of the Muslim Council of Britain. He got a knighthood after saying that death was too good for Salman Rushdie.
And nobody.
And he's a leader. He was a leader of the Muslim Council of Britain.
A.L. Kennedy, do you think that anything goes?
Yeah, I think we need freedom of speech. What alarms me more than anything is that freedom of speech is being constantly redefined as the right to offend, and it's only the negative aspects that were being shown. And that leads to absurdities like the photographs from the torture at Abu Ghraib are redefined in terms of these photographs are offensive and are causing unrest. And you don't get the dialogue which is about it's offensive to torture people, that causes unrest, and photographs of torture. And you have this absurd situation where the more true something is, and we are quite often talking about questions of belief and questions of factual, provable truth, the more true something is, the more offensive it will be. So, for example, you can't, or you would want to watch putting an article into a newspaper about a corporation because it would offend the corporation. And if it's true, you would want to be even more careful because it would impact even more on the share price. So this whole kind of right to offend seems to prevent truth from appearing now.
And what was so interesting in our earlier debate was we had a Christian evangelical who was, we have to admit, pretty offensive if you were gay, and yet Richard didn't think that that was allowed. So we are not allowed, we are allowed to have Muslims feel offended, but not Christians.
I didn't say she shouldn't speak.
Richard, you said that she was pretty offensive.
I didn't say she shouldn't speak. Of course she's free to speak. I simply said that her personal opinion is of no interest on a factual matter where there is evidence.
Richard, what do you think that means?
You can always have a difference of opinion, and when there is a difference of opinion, you're pro-homosexuality, she's anti-homosexuality, so be it, you put those opinions out in the arena. Where it gets downright offensive, when you're going to offend millions of people who died in the Holocaust by saying it never happened, that's fundamentally wrong.
But Sir Rabbi, should David Irving not be allowed to talk?
Bishop Tom, let's go on to this. As a final thought, Bishop Tom, cartoons, for example, can I just take you to a specific point? There have been cartoons of, God, a white man on a cloud, in our culture and civilization for eons. It's not something we get concerned about. Why should we make special rules for other people?
But there are different cultures. I mean, what was it, 10 years, 15 years ago, Spitting Image portrayed Jesus Christ as a hippie. We weren't terribly pleased about it, but we live with that culture. The Muslim community in this country said, he's one of our prophets. You don't denigrate our prophet.
The Life of Brian was a similar kerfuffle, wasn't it?
Now, actually, that was a very interesting kind of meeting of different cultures, different habits. And if we're going to share one country, and if we're going to have social cohesion, we've got to respect one another and think before we act.
Britain is one of the most...
I have not got the freedom here now to shout fire, because if I do... A lot of people
you would. You do have the right. If it was on fire, you should shout fire.
Yes, but if it's not on fire, you don't shout fire. There's a limit to freedom.
So we have to watch our P's and Q's.
About shouting fire in the public arena if that is going to damage our social cohesion.
Britain is one of the most multicultural, multi-faith countries in the world, and it's just not possible to carry on in a way you don't offend anyone. The answer is we don't have the right not to be offended, any of us.
Thank you all very much.
Honestly, thinking about this rationally, actually, it gives room for more interpretation and a clearer understanding as to how ridiculous these claims are. I don't know. This is oppression, okay? This is oppression against the UK, the British people, from these immigrants. I've not seen a case or a situation where immigrants are this opinionated, they're very vocal, and they're asking for so much. Everyone loves comfort. Everyone loves and would love to be in their comfort zone. Everyone would love to be in a place where they have so much opportunity to thrive and they have freedom to do as much as they want to, and also still regain the cultural and the religious path that they love and they abide by, right? But there's a way the world is going right now where certain countries cannot give you all of that. And now you're leaving your country for whatever reason, coming to the UK, and you're seeing things that you like and things that are aiding you to thrive. And you also want certain things that you do not agree with to change and be the way it is in your country. But guess what? The reason you're able to thrive in the UK It's because of these things that you do not like. It's because of these things that your country doesn't allow that you're trying to bring back to the UK. So I don't know if they know that if they actually succeed in making the UK an Islamic state, they're going to lose a lot of perks that brought them there in the first place. I don't know if they're aware of that. But I'm just all about like acceptance and respect, because you cannot be advocating for freedom of speech when people actually do not have the freedom to even speak to you about a whole lot of things. And we keep on mentioning this man who wrote a book, and she keeps on talking about like whatever revolution or whatnot. I don't think that's the topic of discussion right now. The topic of discussion with an example is the fact that you're stating something and you actually are acting in a different way, which is very contradictory to what you're trying to portray. And it's not making a whole lot of sense, to be honest, because these demands are just so much. And coming from a Muslim lady who some people think that they've gone through so much oppression, and she even having the opportunity to voice out her thoughts in a room filled with men is a privilege that she has forgotten that it's a privilege. Like, think about it. Even the whole debate setting, really do. Think about it. I'm all for freedom of speech, to be honest, and it goes both ways. It goes to the people who are like dishing out, their speeches, and the people who are receiving the speeches. Like, you should brace yourself for whatever it is, and we should be less emotional about people's opinions or people's perception about certain things. And I feel like the world would be so much more a better place, to be honest. Like, if you think about it. This is not the full video. I think I'm gonna look for the full video and put out a second part. If you guys would like that, obviously I'm gonna be very open, because I didn't get a lot of Douglas Maurice's take on this, but certainly he was the attraction to this video. So yeah. Anyways, we've come to the very end of today's video. Thank you all so much for joining me. Do also like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And let's keep on staying safe, basically. Upon to the very next one. So bye.